A very exciting time at this time of the year in Harvard, with all the various graduation ceremonies and commencements dotted all across the large campus. We spoke to a range of students, international, American, from different fields, and one word that kept coming up again and again was surreal. They feel the pressure on Harvard right now, and all the threats that Harvard faces from the US administration are making the atmosphere surreal. They're concerned about the individual future, but they also maintain a lot of optimism and hope in this institution overall that they think will stand any challenge. We're here at Harvard University, the epicenter of a growing crisis in education in America, and we're joined now by Sully, who actually recently graduated just now from a ceremony. Congratulations, first and foremost. How does it feel to graduate from Harvard?
Honestly, it's very exciting. I mean, it's a flux of emotions. I feel like I get a lot of, I get a lot of self-criticizing thoughts about how I could have finished the school if I were to repeat it again. But it's a relief because these 4 years here were super demanding, and I'm very glad to just be out of here, honestly. So it's nice to be here.
Sully, tell us what you studied, and also what was your experience like at Harvard?
Yeah, so I'm studying economics. I'm an undergrad, finished with an economics degree. The experience was nice. I think as a liberal arts school, it's one of the most demanding and one of the most popular degrees here. Econ, there's a lot of athletes taking this degree, taking this path. So I think there were a lot of challenges. As someone who grew up outside of the U.S., outside of the Western, culture and stuff, it was some sort of a culture shock for me first. But I think as a more of a liberal space here, it was pretty welcoming. The presence of international students isn't very large per se at Harvard College. I think it's about 10-15%. It's more for the whole Harvard University stuff, but Harvard College, students from Harvard College as internationals are not very, there isn't just a lot of us, but it was fine. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and you've come here on an international visa, a student visa or a scholar visa. And as you know in the news now, that is all under question. Harvard has gone to court to try and retain the right to allow international students. How does it feel now to graduate at this time as an international student? Also tell us where you're from and what was your experience with the student visa?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm from Kazakhstan, a country in Central Asia. The experience with the student visa, it's actually funny because I just flew back to the US a few days ago. So when I got the news, I was actually out of the country, and if the Trump administration's change took effect immediately, that would mean that my student visa would be revoked. But it was fun because in the end they froze the action, I think, and then I just passed the border control and stuff. It was fine, no issues. I know they're having a hearing on the 29th, which is actually tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, the commencement. We'll see how it goes next. As someone who's graduating now, I think it doesn't affect me as much as other students. I know that other students were suffering a lot, especially the ones that just got in. Harvard actually sent out some emails a few months ago for newly admitted students that they should matriculate to other schools as well, just in case they have visa complications. But in terms of, me and other students, internationals who are graduating, I think it affects us too, because most of us would plan to stay here and work on a visa extension program, which is called OPT, Optional Practical Training. For some students, it's 1 year. For others, it's 3 years.
And so do you have that?
Yeah, I have that. I'm studying econ, but here at Harvard, it's classified as STEM. The 3-year extension is for STEM students. But here at Harvard, it isn't just econ. I mean, other schools would have econ as just social sciences, but here it's classified as econometrics and quantitative economics or something. I'm gonna have that a 3-year extension, which lets me work here temporarily work here without an H-1B visa, which is a work visa sponsored by companies. But if if the international students' visas do get revoked, that OPT extension would be canceled immediately. So we'll see how it goes.
So how does that make you feel? I mean, Harvard is not cheap. It's an expensive university to attend, and I'm sure coming from Kazakhstan, that's a lot of effort, right?
Yeah.
And 4 years spent here. So how does that uncertainty make you feel? And also, how does this then reflect on what you think of the importance of international students here in America at American universities?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So honestly, for me, I wasn't as upset as some of my classmates were and would be, because I wasn't quite sure if I would, make super long-term plans in the US to stay here and build my career. I would love to have the opportunity to do that, but there's like a lot of ties that I have back home, making me willing to go back. And since if it works out that I would be barred from working here on my student visa, I wouldn't be that mad. It's still I would still have the chance to like apply for jobs and get a visa sponsorship on an H-1B visa if my F1 student is no longer an option. But speaking of the whole thing, how it affects other students and what I feel like, I think you definitely feel the injustice, because of all the US schools, it's just Harvard. There were other schools that had this student activities that Trump administration was criticizing still, but it is the university administration's actions of not complying with everything that the government officials have asked, which has led to this. And as someone who wasn't very involved in the political climate of the country and all over the world, maybe I should be more involved in that, but I wasn't. As someone who wasn't very involved in that, it does, it feels like a punishment for like, it does feel like a punishment, even though I haven't done anything. It does feel weird in that sense. But even then, I would still be. I do agree that having a student visa here and having an opportunity to study here is a privilege.
Out of Harvard Yard, we're joined by Amir Dudley, who's going to be graduating from Harvard tomorrow, actually. But you are here at Harvard Yard watching all these students, have their commencement and graduate. What does it feel like to be a student at Harvard at this time?
It's surreal. There's a lot going on in the news, a lot of headlines. So it's a little bit of a tense time, but at the same time, it's definitely like, we're celebrating, put in a lot of hard work, and we deserve to celebrate that. So yeah.
One of the things that's been huge for American education is its leadership across the world, and one of the aspects has been being welcoming to international students. And I don't know if you heard, but international student visas, interviews for those have been halted just recently. That means there's less chance of international students showing up at Harvard. How does that make you feel as an American citizen? Do you think that has an impact, and if so, what kind of impact?
It has an impact because the people make the place. If you're coming to a place and everyone's from the same place, it's not as eccentric, it's not as diverse. It's a lot of the same. So I feel like at a place like this, like no matter where you are, the people do make the place. Having different places and having different people to make that place is extremely important. I feel like it's something that should be reviewed and something that people should definitely 100% take a step back and beside yourself and where you're at, think about all the different opportunities that are being held from others and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Now, you've studied psychology, right? When it comes to sciences and education, research is so important, and a lot of funding has been cut for Harvard, including a new recent one of another $100 million US. How do you feel when federal funding is cut on research for you as a student and also your future in psychology and science? What impact can that have?
Yeah.
And does that worry you?
It definitely does worry me. At the end of the day, I'm first generation Ivy League student, so I didn't come in with the money that some of the other kids here have that. And I can't complain. I mean, I was funded very, very generously, so I'm thankful for that. But I feel like for the future generations, it's doing more harm than good, and I feel like they should have that opportunity. And it's a bit disappointing to say the least. And I hope that they change their mind on that and it's reviewed for sure.
So far, Harvard, the institution of Harvard is standing up to some of what President Donald Trump is trying to do to them, and there's so many cases now in court. So, how do you feel about Harvard's overall response in terms of trying to maintain its independence and how they choose their student body?
Yeah, integrity is a huge part of like what we're taught. Like, I mean, Harvard is supposed to be a place for great people, and at the end of the day, integrity is one of the greatest characteristics that a single person can have. So I feel like having that integrity and standing by your students and under like not necessarily just giving into the tyranny, taking a step forward and kind of standing up for your students is something that's huge, and I feel like Harvard's doing a good job of that, and I hope they continue to do so.